Hi, it's so great to see you again. Welcome back. In the previous video, we measured two types of happiness, experience happiness and reflective happiness. We also measured your SEM, satisfaction, engagement, and morale. And finally, your objective and subjective productivity. As I mentioned, these are all linked as follows. In this video, I want to shift gears to a different, and for some of you at least, an even more important topic. ROI, or return on investment of investing in employee happiness. Here's the question. Is it worth for organizations to invest resources, time, money, and effort to improve employee happiness? This is a very important question, of course, because most managers operate under budget constraints, so they naturally want to ensure that their investments are reaping dividends. Now, most managers I know aren't convinced that increasing employee happiness will increase productivity and profits. In fact, many managers believe that stressed out, anxious employees perform better. As it turns out, these managers are wrong. As I mentioned earlier, lots of studies have shown that happier employees are more productive and profitable. But what I didn't do earlier is give you details from these studies. So let me start with a classic study conducted way back in the Middle Ages, by which I mean the 1980s, of course. This study was with employees from MetLife, the US-based insurance giant. Here's the question that the researchers asked. Would a set of happier, specifically more optimistic, but less technically skilled employees perform better or worse than a set of less happy but more skilled employees? What do you think? Before I get to the results, let me tell you what these researchers did. They first administered a questionnaire to some new sales recruits, and based on the results from it, categorized the incoming salespeople into one of two groups: the happy but not so skilled employees and the skilled but not so happy employees. They then let these salespeople do their job for the next 2 years and measured their performance. Here's what they found. The happier but less qualified salespeople outsold their less happy but more skilled coworkers by 21% in the first year and by 57% in the second year. Also, the happiest 10% outsold the least happy 10% by a whopping 88%. Most importantly, perhaps, the happier salespeople were twice as likely to remain in their job than their less happy counterparts. So happiness does more than improve productivity at work. It lowers turnover. Now, this study involved sales. So you may ask, what about other jobs like programming or banking? Does happiness matter in these jobs too? To answer this question, Raj Sisodia, the professor from Babson we met earlier, and his colleagues first analyzed the stock market performance of 28 companies, both public and private. They call these companies firms of endearment because these firms cared deeply about the happiness of their employees. I'll let Raj summarize what he and his colleagues found.
These companies actually are more successful financially in the long run by a 9-to-1 ratio in that particular set of 18 public companies and 10 private companies. Outperform the S&P 500 dramatically over the long run.
Note that by these companies, Raj is referring to these 28 public and private firms of endearment. Now, the results Raj reported was the performance of these companies over a 10-year period between 1998 and 2008. Subsequently, Raj and his colleagues expanded their investigation to more companies, both US-based and international, and this time they found even more remarkable results. Over a 15-year period between 1998 and 2013, these so-called firms of endearment outperformed the S&P 500 by a ratio of 14-to-1. These and other such findings are the reason why companies like Google and Facebook, Starbucks, Wegmans, REI, Patagonia, Whole Foods are actively promoting a culture of happiness and well-being at work. Google, for example, has an entire division called People Division. It's not just these big companies that are focusing on happiness, by the way. I recently spoke to Shah Rukh Khan, the famous Indian actor who employs about 300 people in his firm, Red Chillies Entertainment. Here's what he told me about how important happiness of his employees is to him.
Well, I think the most important part about working with people together, in whichever space, I have about 300 people who work with me making films, doing visual effects, and so many other jobs. I think just the happiness of each other is the most important.
Is Shah Rukh smart to prioritize employee happiness? You bet. He's the world's second richest actor, worth more than $500 million. And much of his success is due to his happy employees. Here's another example from the opposite side of the world. Carla Furtado, founder of Felicencia Institute, which is a consulting firm out of Brazil, describing the benefits of a happiness intervention that she helped devise for Hospital Anchieta, a Brazilian hospital. Listen.
The employee satisfaction was increased. The external satisfaction, which is the patient satisfaction, was increased. There is a very important indicator that is NPS, Net Promoter Score, that was absolutely surprising. We started with the index was 21, and we were after 6 months with 25, but I have to mention that 23 would be wonderful. And the fourth result that was amazing was profitability. Of course, first of all, I don't think you can get into this kind of project looking for money. But we had this increasing profitability just in 6 months of 12%. The company achieved 18% of profitability in a country where, in an industry and a country where 12%, 15% would be brilliant. So that were the first results we have after 6 months.
Amazing results, right? Later on in this course, in the very last week, we will hear from Carla again about something amazing that the CEO of Hospital Anchieta, Lorena Porto Pereira, did with the hospital's increased profits. Meanwhile, back to the topic, if organizations with happier employees are more productive and profitable, you may ask, why aren't investment firms like hedge funds or mutual funds investing in these firms of endearment? Great question. As it turns out, there is a fund called the Firms of Endearment Fund, and it's doing really well. Also, as these news headlines reveal, many other investment firms like Vanguard and Parnassus and TIAA-CREF are also starting to invest in companies with happier employees. And not only that, some of these firms are starting to invest in the happiness of their own employees as well. If you're surprised at how important employee happiness is turning out to be for a firm's productivity and profits, it's totally understandable. Like I said earlier, many managers do not associate happiness with productivity. So perhaps the more perplexing question is actually, why do managers think this way? That's the question to which I will turn in the next video, so be sure to watch it.